I'm Janet Takahashi. I'm an artist and a calligrapher. Today we'll be doing Gothic black letter calligraphy. I'll be using Pigma Calligrapher pens by Sakura. Welcome to my studio. Let's get started. I want to talk briefly about the history of Gothic black letter. The Gothic black letter hand was developed between the 12th to 15th centuries in Northern Europe. This hand is comprised of straight and angled letters. It is condensed and narrow in structure. It creates a bold graphic image, and you can see that at the time, the lettering also echoes the architecture as well. Tall, narrow cathedrals and stained glass windows that reach for the heavens. And here's something from the 13th century that is an original. And you can see how tiny this lettering is. They were done in monasteries by monks. It is an actual page from a book, so it's done on calfskin. Prior to this, the hands were rounder. It took longer to write. It took more parchment skins and vellum to make a book. The first universities were established, and then there was a need to make more books. Parchment became more rare. So with Gothic lettering, you can get more letters on a page. The different Gothic hands then developed with names such as Gothic, black letter, texture, textura, quadrata, and fracture. Today we see Gothic script in headings of diplomas, banknotes, holiday cards, movie titles, and theme parks. We associate it with all things and all subjects of enchantment, castles, and dragons. It's a style of writing that conjures up a magical quality of times gone by. We're going to start off by showing you the pens I'm going to be using, the papers to use, making marks, and then making letter forms. So here is the pen we're going to use. It's a Sakura Pigma Calligrapher pen. It comes in 6 different colors, 3 different sizes. It's archival, waterproof. It has a durable hard plastic nib. And what's great about that is it doesn't get mushy when you write with this pen. And you can take it anywhere and write. Okay, so we're going to talk about papers first. On papers, you can practice with graph paper. And there are different kinds of papers. So this graph paper in your writing area is, if you were to sit at your desk and you hold your arms like this is the area that you're always going to be writing at. So when I'm writing, I'm always moving my hand to this ideal optimum position right here. So we're going to talk about practice papers now. There are different papers in your pen. Sometimes when you write with it, you notice that it bleeds and you don't get a really clear, crisp edge when you're writing. And it's not really the pen, it's the paper. And so if you have a very absorbent paper, I'm going to write on this index card here. Do you see how that edge is feathering out? And then if I write on another paper, right away you can see that this one is also feathering. So it's not a real great paper to write on for practice. There are also textured papers, and it creates a textured effect with your pen, and that may be an effect you want. So you keep that in mind as well. So here is something that shows that. And then there are graph papers. And so for graph paper, what's great about that is you already have the lines to follow. So for practice, it's really great because you can stay parallel. So we're going to hold the pen at 90 degrees. You want to hold the pen more upright. Okay. Then holding the pen at 45-degree angle. And then our lettering is mostly going to be done at 40 degrees. So it's a little flatter of an angle. So these are some of the marks that we'll be making. And then putting these diamonds on, these diamond shapes. And then combining the diamond shape with the vertical. And then putting them together. Okay. So I'm going to show you now how to figure out the nib width height of 5.5. And what you do is you stair step your pen. It's like a ladder. So the Gothic black letter hand that we're doing today, we're going to do it at 5.5 nib widths high. And that's for the X height of the letter, which is the height of the lowercase letter. So the pen has a nib, and to figure out the nib width, so I'm going to turn the paper here. You draw a baseline, and then I'm going to stair step it. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one happens to be 5.5. And you can see that this X height of this is 5.5 nib widths high. The capitals, I'm going to turn the paper back this way, and the capitals are an extra height, and then the ascenders is an extra nib width high, and the descenders are 2. So I wrote it out like that, and then here's an example of some of these letter forms. So here's the X height of this lowercase n letter. Here's an ascender letter form. The top of this part goes up to the ascender line, and a descender drops below the baseline. And here's a capital which goes up, which is higher than the X height of a lowercase letter because it's an uppercase letter, but it's still not as high as an ascender. So these are just general rules. You can always change them, make your letters a lot more elongated for an effect, for a graphic effect, and make your capitals larger, and they're also wider. So that's for the 3mm nib, and that comes out to, if I take my dividers, 5.5 at 3 millimeters is 16.5 millimeters. So I take a ruler, and I know it's 16.5 millimeters. So I'll take my dividers and I'll make that mark and I'll set the dividers. And then that is the width of the X height of that 3mm pen for Gothic black letter. And this is how we're going to make our lines later. I just wanted to show you that the pen angle of the stroke that we're going to be doing is 40 degrees, and that's 40 degrees of an angle to the writing line itself. And then this is for the 2mm nib, and it is at 5.5. You do the same thing. You're going to stair step your pen. Let's see, here's a 2. You stair step your pen, it looks like that, and then it comes to 10.5 millimeters for the X height, and I just use the dividers, set it like that, and then that's the height. You can see there's an ascender here and a descender, and then there's a capital example as well. So now I'm going to show you how to transfer your lines to your paper. So we've already determined the X height of your lettering, and I already drew a baseline, which is this line right here. And I can take my paper right up to there like that. I can just make some little dots like this, and I can take a T-square and these lines will be parallel to each other. And then this is the X height that we're going to be lettering in. So that's one way to do it, is to take your lines and just put it against the paper and transfer it like that, and you can make your own lines. Another way is to have the paper longer than your good paper. So now I can put this up here, this good piece of paper, tape that, and I can see the lines beyond the paper, and all I have to do is put these lines and draw them like that. And another way I can do it is I can make a chart like this, which is this 5.5 nib widths high. And what I've done is I've taken the chart, as you can see, and I have the capital line, and I can just put this against a piece of paper. And then go all the way down the page, and then use a T-square to make your lines. And then another thing you can do is you can take your dividers, and I know that it is this height for the X height, and I can put my dividers down, just set it on the paper, you make a mark, and set my pencil in that hole, and there you go. So those are some really great ways to do lines. You can do them ahead of time, and you can also use graph paper, which also makes it really easy to do. And there's one other way to make lines using an old-fashioned school compass, a pencil and a ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the baseline first, and then I'm going to take the compass and I adjust it so it's at that X height. I have this ruler down. I'm going to take my compass like this, and I'm going to just draw it across. That's it. I will also have some lines that you can download as well.